Walt Disney Company is in major trouble when it comes to the findings of that independent audit out of the Sunshine State. And perhaps the only thing more interesting, or at least as interesting, as the potential civil and criminal issues Disney faces, would of course be the coverage of what is going on. Today we're going to take a look at the mainstream corporate and Disney blog media and show you exactly how all of this is being spun, as well as acknowledging that yes, there are some issues with CFTOD, the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. But comparing that to what Disney is accused of, apples and oranges, folks, apples and oranges, and we will explain it all right now. Hello, folks. Welcome back to the WDW Pro channel. A joy, as always, that you have elected to join us. Thank you so much for spending some time out of your very busy and valuable day. Today, we're going to be providing you with some valuable information when it comes to understanding what is coming down the pike in terms of the Walt Disney Company, its impact on culture, and perhaps how people may view Disney once all this information is promulgated throughout the web. It doesn't seem that Disney much longer can play this corporate spin game, but we're going to dissect it all. Folks, it's time to go to the panel and see what the analysis is, just as you expect, right here, right now. Now, I want to, we're going to make a change to our schedule. This was going to be at the end of the show, but I want to get this in while we've got Andrew.
And I did address this on my channel as well. I know there were some pixie dusters that were...
in particular, and that's what we want to aim at, sure. I want to show folks out there how this is being covered differently depending on the outlet that is reporting on it. So, this is out of Blog Mickey. CFTOD Board of Supervisors cancel final scheduled meeting of 2023, posted by Mike. And this says the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District has canceled its final scheduled meeting of 2023 after calling a special meeting last week to release an audit that leveled accusations of bribery against Disney World and the former Reedy Creek Improvement District. In addition to lengthy coverage of the report that Disney called neither objective nor credible, Board Chairman Martin Garcia asked the Florida legislature to enact more laws that would change the landscape of the Walt Disney World Resort. And this goes on to just give us the facts. Now, let's take a look at how this looks differently with a different website. This out of wdwmagic.com. You're going to love this one, Andrew, if you've not read it yet. Central Florida Tourism Oversight District cancels board meeting amid mounting issues for the DeSantis appointed administrators. This also from the 11th, but this one by WDW Magic staff. This week's planned board meeting of the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District on December 13th has been canceled. CFTOD has yet to give a reason for the cancellation, but it comes alongside a particularly chaotic time for the Ron DeSantis appointed Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, you know what it comes. You know what else it comes along with, bro?
What's that?
Christmas.
Oh,
Christmas.
But that's too mundane.
They always cancel. They always can't. Listen, I have been on dozens of boards. Every single, it's either Thanksgiving or Christmas. They will can't. If it comes even near it, if it comes in the shadow with Thanksgiving or Christmas, if there's an excuse, particularly for special districts, they will cancel a meeting. If there's not enough business on the agenda, they cancel a meeting. Guess what they have to do with every meeting? They have to pay professionals. It costs thousands of dollars. I would charge between $300 and $500 per hour for me to drive my happy singing butt out to those meetings, and they're paying for my travel time. Okay, they're paying for my travel time to make me sitting in the meeting, for just sitting there watching, and me traveling home. They're probably even paying for my meal too. So they're having to pay all those costs if they're running a meeting. And if there's nothing to run, why would they run it? Most special districts do not have more than a meeting per month and an additional meeting in August or September for the budget, because the fiscal year runs through September for government. So you need to have a public hearing on the budget. So you need to have kind of two quick hearings in August or July, the summer area. So 13 meetings, which by the way, they moved from 19 to 13 meetings, is proper. Reedy Creek was probably having more meetings so they could justify paying the board members more and padding their salaries, padding the board member salaries. So that's probably why they were doing that, so they could pay everybody out.
So
and
Andrew,
this is nothing new. This is completely standard for this.
So
Andrew,
did they have an article covering the 80 pages or 177 pages of allegations against the Walt Disney Company?
And
I'm just curious.
but here's my thought on this: is that I'm not here to disagree that the head of the Florida GOP has a real problem. He and his wife is on the CFTOD board. I'm not here to disagree that based on what I've seen, they have some real issues ahead, and perhaps there will be people who need to step down. But what Disney is alleged to have been involved in is so much bigger than one or two goofballs on the board who may have to be replaced. This goes way beyond any of that kind of stuff. And so I find that we're just kind of, we're grasping at straws of salacious straws in order to find a way to link this to something else when I think you're exactly right. This is utter mundanity. They canceled a meeting close to Christmas so they can be at home, enjoy their loved ones, get their heads wrapped around what's going on with this audit. And, if the board looks slightly different next year, so be it. But none of this changes what Disney is facing in regards to all of the allegations that came out over the last week or so. Fair?
Yeah, that was one of my conclusions on my stream today. That kind of the final point was, if Nelson Peltz wins and Perlmutter and all them, and they get their Christmas list, they're still going to have to deal with this liability. I don't think that once again, the Fed's are going to need to get involved, the SEC, the IRS, the DOJ, and then Florida. I think they've got to do something. Right. There's got to be some people where their heads rolling. And even if those folks are no longer in office, they're still liable for what happened while they're in office.
Well, which is why they want to push it off. You want one more year with the family before you go to prison,
You're not wrong.
What do you guys think about the Pixie Dusters and how they're trying to cover this? Are they out of their league? Do they just not know?
They're not. They're not pro. The silence is deafening on the audit, which it wasn't just feelings and hopes and dreams. It was 80 exhibits, right? I mean, there were 78 exhibits. Let me not be hyperbolic there. 78 exhibits, hundreds of pages of actual real evidence, which is prima facie evidence, which means on its face, just the evidence alone. There's no intent. There's no nothing else. You bring that to the AG, it's a crime in Florida. So all the AG's got to do is bring it, and nobody is talking about it but us. That is really nuts, and that's
we appreciate that.
I'll give you one example from that. Disney did a discovery bomb on DeSantis. Basically, ridiculous amounts of discovery that they're requesting on CFTOD, and to the level that they could not respond. Okay, this got covered by the Pixie Duster sites. However, on the other side, you have the Disney company literally denying entry to a CFTOD owned facility when the auditors are trying to come in and get access so they can do the audit, and they're blocked from entering the facility.
That's because it's a power plant that doesn't run, Jonas. We can't have people seeing our power plant that's non-functional that we paid millions of dollars for. We can't have that
been transitioned to a giant air conditioning facility.
Exactly. So the headline on one side is DeSantis is refusing to, which it's not DeSantis, it's CFTOD, is refusing discovery, as opposed to you just asked for so many records that we cannot provide them. And the other one is akin to I'm not going to mention the country that got in trouble for denying auditors, because it's not a fair comparison. But this is one of these is an actual crime, and one of these is a procedural issue.
I'm just thinking of Hans Blix from Team America here. Hello, Hans. But really though, it is on that level, because if they find out, by the way, that they did change the purpose of it, right? So let's say it's still a quote unquote public building, but they changed the purpose of the building. Let's say it's supposed to provide power, but they changed it to AC. It's not that AC would be impermissible. Here's the problem. They didn't disclose that in their bond disclosures.
Right.
That is a criminal violation.
Which for people who don't understand, those are municipal bonds, therefore government bonds that a private corporations are not allowed to issue government bonds or have control over government bonds. And the people who were dealing these bonds were at Disney.com email addresses, allegedly, even though it's also in the audit. We've got the documentation. We can show you the page numbers if you give us a chance to look them up. For those things to be paid for by government bonds and not be disclosed, that is the issue here. There are so many iffy let's hand wave and say it's fine because no one's ever going to check us. Well, guess what? Somebody is finally checking. And if these auditors really get the chance to dig in on everything, if you had an external auditor actually go through everything for a long period of time, I think you would find even more alleged problems.
So I want to go to Endymion.
Absolutely, by the way, I absolutely concur with that. I think that if what people have been telling me, and I have been emailed by a lot of people on the inside, and they say, look, when they actually get their hands on the books, it's going to be nuts. Like if Perlmutter and Peltz actually go in there and do a forensic
I can't
audit,
wait for that.
it will be beyond. It's just what we've seen is a
Oh.
tip of the iceberg.
So Endymion, what we're dealing with is a company that is alleged to have completely captured a government for decades and has participated in things that, I mean, it's unprecedented. The level of wrongdoing that is alleged here.
Are you telling me that Disney's corrupt?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't believe that. It's
But here's
impossible.
what I'm interested in Endymion. So
Yeah.
the Disney blogs and many of the pro Disney sites, they want to grasp onto these things like, somebody having an affair or whatever, as if that's an equal, or if it's, 10 times greater the story. And I'm trying to figure out, are they intentionally, in your estimation, trying to gaslight people? Or do you think that they're so far up into the tribalism bubble that they don't venture out of it to find out that, oh, wait a minute, this area of law, which I am absolutely ignorant of, is enough to sink so many people at this company, and I'm not covering the biggest story of the decade about the Walt Disney Company?
I mean, yes, 100%. I mean, when you think about it, the amount of stories that just you guys alone, not even me, cover, and then you go watch something on TV like Entertainment Tonight or something, they don't cover any of these things because they're all owned by them. Like, for example, you're never going to see ABC News say anything bad about Disney because Disney owns ABC News, right? That's just a small example, but of course not. The only way this information ever gets out is because of independent people such as yourselves and me too. That's the only way it gets out. Otherwise, nobody ever hears about it, right? They want to keep everyone as blissfully ignorant as they can because then it's easier to control them that way. So, of course, of course.
So instead, they run stories about how, Ron DeSantis punished us for committing all these crimes, and it's a First Amendment issue. He only went after us
By the
for
way,
all of the crimes we've committed.
I laughed my head off when I was reading one of Pro's things about it, and it was like Disney was mad at Ron DeSantis because they were encroaching their freedom of speech, and I was like, that's hilarious of like a company like
so
that.
that's why you were bribing people since the 60s because of Ron DeSantis. Like the guy probably wasn't even born yet, and you're bribing people.
Yeah.
Like that's your excuse. Like that's your response. I don't
think about it,
think so.
The fact that they only found this out now, and then they found out that this scandal has been going on for like what 50, 60 years probably. The rot is so deep that I can only imagine what they've done that we don't know about yet.
Avoid innuendo.
I mean,
to go
you know
to the when you guys were talking about you're never going to hear something bad out of ABC News. I just want to show folks out there what we're talking about. This is Good Morning America, which is, of course, ABC News. And this was an article on April 4th, 2022. Walt Disney World Resort to be powered up to 40% by the sun by Tracy G. Wolf. Walt Disney World Resort is adding 2 75 megawatt solar arrays to its renewable energy portfolio that, combined with existing infrastructure, will provide 40% of the park's electricity.
Wait,
Andrew?
They said up to in the headline, but right there it says will provide in the article.
And that's not even the full max of the issue. Andrew, which entity actually leased out these solar panels?
Yeah, so Walt Disney, and for that matter, even the district, produce zero energy. That is right, zero energy at all whatsoever. That is all produced. 100% of their energy is produced by Duke Energy, a private company which does lease some land from RCID. Now, we're going to, by the way, dig into those contracts. I'm sure we're going to look into those agreements because they benefit, right? That land is leased by RCID to Duke. but it seems like they're just benefiting Walt Disney World Resort. They're not sharing that power with all those within the district. It's very, very, very interesting. But
Well,
Walt
that's what I
Disney
was
doesn't
gonna
actually
say.
produce any of that. They produce zero of that. The district produced zero of that.
Well,
It's all Duke.
well, Andrew, why do you think then that Good Morning America, of course, an entity underneath ABC News, would say that the Walt Disney World Resort is adding when in fact it was Reedy Creek, and in fact Reedy Creek was just leasing this to Duke Energy? Why would GMA come out and say this thing about the Disney company?
Well, I think they got at least 2 ESG points and a brownie for this one.
Oh, that's a good
I think
point.
every article you get a cupcake, right? Or
Social credit score went up. Good for them.
And by the way, did you guys see the South Carolina treasurer? I have
Mhm.
that video on my channel, but the treasurer who pretty much says, look, ESG is first of all, it was brought up by the left. It has nothing to do with the profitability of the company at all whatsoever. So we're looking at a metric of what to invest in and not. We're just not going to look at this anymore, and we're not going to consider this going forward. So it's an absolutely glorious moment for divesting from Disney.
Right. When
Again,
Tesla, one of the most ESG centered companies, if you're actually talking about the environment, when they can't make it onto the ESG lists because he's unpopular with the left, I think that very clearly states what ESG actually is.
I want to look at this quote from Jeff Vail. Now, he is not someone who was on the board of the RCID. He's not someone who was part of the government that apparently leased out the land for the solar panels. No, he is the president of the Walt Disney World Resort. So this is still, I'm confused what he had to do with the solar panels. But he said this latest step will help us further accomplish our goal of net zero emissions by 2030. That's in 7 years. Our commitment to the environment goes beyond imagining a brighter, more sustainable future by putting possibility into practice to ensure a happier, healthier planet for all. Now, according to our sources, of course, it turns out that the Walt Disney World Resort, probably 90% of it has to be brought in from that third party, Duke Energy or Florida Light and Power, whatever. And the issue there, of course, is that almost certainly 90% or so, approximately, of the Walt Disney World Resort is likely ran off of combined cycle natural gas turbines. But this was carried by the GMA, by Good Morning America, as if it was news, and I'm sure that it was promulgated throughout all of the news sites out there and articles as if it was objective and true and factual. I dare say I think that it is more dubious now.
I'm pretty sure it was you. I'm pretty sure it was Pro who said that they even lease land within Florida, like Disney pays for the land of like certain people to basically support them too. Like they actually give them like houses and stuff too, right? Like,
Yes, the trailer.
So that was that was the whole corruption of public officials, crime / bribery.
That's just another lawsuit. Don't worry about that.
No.
Right,
It's part of this whole.
Disney,
part of this. Part of all of this. Yeah.
Right.
But
so
really,
Disney has a list of
Go ahead,
people,
Jonas.
and they
And
say
then they have
if
the
you want to
whole-
be on the board, you will be. We will deed you over a 5-acre plot with a trailer on it, and you will be on the board
5
of these
acres.
2 Well, I'm sure it's 5 acres of swampland too. And maybe that's in order to keep anybody who actually gets a parcel of land.
It's a statutory number. They need to have at least 5 acres.
Okay. So they basically get to control whoever gets actual voting rights for the 2 cities, the 2 paper cities that they have there.
Oh yeah.
And Demion, these mobile homes with the 5 acres, they're behind a metal gate, with like a chain on it. It's not where people probably live. I'm not alleging that. I'm just saying probably people don't live there. It's probably just a house, just a facade.
Yeah, the people who live there are probably eating good somewhere else.
All right, folks, that is a wrap for today. We hope you enjoyed the content. As always, we continue to explain entertainment and keep you ahead of the culture curve. Thank you for allowing us to do so. And if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe. And when you click it, you do stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, so waste not yours. Join in the community dialogue together with all of us. And folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.